Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Waller.
Aye.
President votes aye. That passes unanimously. Item 8.
Item 8, proclamation recognizing Pearl Harbor Day. Longinos Gonzalez, Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
I invite anybody to come forward who'd like to participate in this. I move to approve a proclamation recognizing Pearl Harbor Day. Whereas on December 7th, 1941, the Empire of Japan suddenly and viciously attacked the Pacific Fleet of the United States of America while at Pearl Harbor in the United States territory of Hawaii. And whereas this surprise attack resulted in more than 2,350 deaths, 1,178 wounded, and brought devastation to the United States Pacific Fleet and its air forces. And whereas December 7, 1941, a date that will forever live in infamy, brought the United States out of isolation and into the Second World War to support the Allies, who had been fighting a bitter war in Europe for the 2 previous years. And whereas this sneak attack kindled the righteous fury of the United States of America, thus awakening the sleeping giant to become the arsenal of democracy for the cause of freedom. And whereas through the untold measure paid in precious lives, the United States ultimately won the titanic struggle and achieved the final victory. And whereas the number of military service personnel who survived the vicious attack on that day is quickly declining as years pass. Now, therefore, the Board of El Paso County Commissioners hereby recognizes December 7, 2018 as Pearl Harbor Day in El Paso County, Colorado, and urges all citizens to set aside time on that day to reflect on the bitter lessons learned, to honor the profound bravery of all those who served, and to pay special tribute to those who gave their last full measure of devotion on that fateful day 77 years ago. Done this 6th day of December 2018 at Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Darrell Glenn, President, Mark Waller, President Pro Tem, Stan Vanderwerf, Longinos Gonzalez Jr., Peggy Littleton, members, attested to by Chuck Borman, County Clerk and Recorder.
Second.
So I'm inviting somebody to come up and make a few comments.
Yes, sir. I'm Tom Gregory. I'm the president of the Colorado Springs Navy League, and thank you for the VFW, Bob Lally, and the other folks here to come for this. And many thanks to the commissioners for doing this proclamation, especially to Mr. Vanderwerf. What a lot of folks don't realize, with the attack on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese actually went after the Air Forces first. Like anybody, they know they had to have command of the air before they go after the ships. So they literally attacked the Army Air Corps first, and the Navy and the Marine Corps Air Corps, and then they went after the battleship row, et cetera. So it actually is more than just typically a Navy event. And I also want to specifically thank both Bob Lally, as far as the Military Affairs Council and the Pikes Peak Heroes Legacy Committee, and Commissioner Vanderwerf. What a lot of people don't realize is if you were on the battleship Arizona on December 7th and you were a survivor, you can get part of the Arizona. So Mr. Vanderwerf and Bob Lally actually got a 4-foot section of the Arizona. And for a while, I know it was in Stan's office, but a 4-foot section of that. And with the Pikes Peak Heroes Legacy Committee, they are actually creating a memorial for that because of Mr. Stratton, who's actually a resident here in Colorado Springs, for that memorial. We also, I appreciate the support of the commissioners, et cetera, for being able to name interstate bridges after people, because Jim Downey was a survivor of the West Virginia. Unfortunately, he passed us last year. He was a Colorado Springs resident. And the battleship West Virginia actually had their annual reunion here in Colorado Springs. So think about that. They came to Colorado Springs for their annual reunion in October. And we recognized them at the Navy Ball in October, and where Admiral Fuller from the Northcom gave them special recognition, and they would cut the cake, et cetera, and we appreciate that. And also something else that's not really known about here in Colorado Springs is enlisted pilot by the name of Dan Griffin. He was a PBY pilot in Kaneohe Bay on December 7th. And when the Japanese went after the Air Forces first, he swam out to his plane, and while he was taking off, he was shot down with his wife watching from the shore. So some people say actually that a Colorado Springs native may have been one of the first casualties on December 7th, 1941. So with that, and even though I know this is an Air Force and Army town, But even though it is, yes, there's still some Navy here, and I appreciate the fact of the commissioners and all the support of the commissioners, Mr. Vanderwerf and Bob Lally especially. I keep coming back to Bob because of all the work he's doing on the memorial with Stan. We sincerely appreciate the fact that you do the recognition from, because December 7th wasn't mine. My dad enlisted in the Army 2 months later. But anyway, I really sincerely appreciate all the help from the commissioners, and I appreciate the fact you recognize Pearl Harbor Day. Anybody else want to say anything? All right, thank you. Oh, okay.
We're going to vote. Oh, wait.
Can't get away without saying something.
Commissioners, thank you so much for doing this proclamation on December 7th. Fellow VFW Comrade Gonzalez, thank you for your service. Appreciate it, sir. This infamous day, 77 years ago, produced many U.S. casualties. More than 3,500 were left dead or wounded, and then 21 ships were sunk or damaged, and more than 340 aircraft were damaged or destroyed. We should never forget this day and events that made us so significant. Most significantly, we recognize the thousands of sailors, soldiers, airmen, Marines, Coast Guard men who perished during the horrific ambush and the turbulent years that follow. So I just want to say that may we leave this equally resolved in our determination to serve a nation and fellow man and selflessly as they did. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And if you could just state your name for the record.
I'm Steve Shaughnessy.
Okay.
I'll leave my card.
That's okay. Thank you.
You know my last name.
Any-
Good morning, Commissioners. Marshall Bosworth, County VSO. I can't really follow up with all the information that those two had. It was awesome. But I just want to say thank you for the proclamation. It's still 77 years later, recognizing the sacrifices of Pearl Harbor Day and always keeping those veterans that suffered through that in our memories. Again, I just want to say thank you.
Well, I just wanted to thank everybody again for coming out. I know there's a couple of ceremonies coming up. I think there's one tomorrow is the traditional one that we attend. So I'm looking forward to that, and just remind people to remember these dates that are historic, but still affect us today. And so I thank you again for everything. And I did just want to add, yes, I think with that memorial part of the Arizona, I think it was very difficult to get that from Commissioner Vanderwerf after it was in his office for so long. But I'm looking forward to seeing that memorial when it's finally dedicated.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Littleton.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for being here. It's kind of bittersweet. It's Commissioner Glenn and I's last time to do this after 8 years, but we know that the tradition will carry on because this is a day in infamy and it's a day we will never forget. Certainly, I don't know if all of you know, but every single one of my colleagues here is a retired officer, and I have a son who's serving in the Air Force and a father who also proudly served. So our hearts are with you, our patriotism stands with you, and certainly our congratulations and our heartfelt, just the way that we look at how we support our military in this town and have great appreciation for what you guys do. Thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very, very proud of this community and how it honors its veterans and those that have served faithfully to defend the country. I think it was a particularly poignant that we were able to name a bridge after Jim Downing, and he was able to see that personally before he passed, because we were willing to do that in a timely enough way that he and his family was able to be part of the ceremony, and now he has gone to a better place. And we've now named a second bridge, after Don Stratton. I believe he's 96 and still lives in our community here with his wife, Velma, and they are two wonderful people, really wonderful people from the greatest generation. The first time I got to meet him, I knocked on their door, And Velma answered, and she said, "Come on in, Stan, and have some tea with my husband and I." And it's just kind of what the greatest generation does. They just have this friendliness about them that's really special. I do ask everybody to come, if you have some time, come out to the Pioneers Museum tomorrow, because we're going to have, as we've had year after year, the 7 December ceremony, the Pearl Harbor ceremony at the Pioneers Museum, and I believe it starts at 11 o'clock. Is that correct, Bob? 11 o'clock. And I think it's going to be an extra special ceremony this time, because Mr. Stratton, who was on the Arizona during the Pearl Harbor attack, he's been traveling for the 7 December ceremonies to Pearl Harbor for many years. But he has decided this time, perhaps because he's a little bit older, but also perhaps because we are honoring him, he's decided to stay in town this time and come to the Pioneers Museum, and we will all get a chance to meet him and see him tomorrow. Also, we'll have, if you will, I guess you would call it the official unveiling of this piece of the USS Arizona, a 150-pound piece of it. And I'd like to say my thanks to the Pikes Peak Heroes Legacy Committee, because it's going to continue its work to honor Don Stratton and other local community heroes. That is really wonderful. Everybody on that committee is contributing to honoring our heroes in this community, and they're all just fantastic people. And for all you Navy folks, at least more than half of that committee is retired Navy, so you can be proud of that. But I'd also like to thank the county staff, because when we first interacted with Don Stratton, we needed a place for this piece. I had the great fortune to have it in my office, and that was like bragging rights for 6 months, which I thought was really outstanding. But there's more going on behind the scenes with the county. We drove this piece up to Denver not too long ago, because it was being placed on a cradle, the beginning of the museum exhibit. And county personnel are driving that down from Denver today to be placed in the Pioneers Museum so that we can do the unveiling of the piece tomorrow. So the county is also involved in this process, and I just want to thank the team, the county team that's doing this kind of work, because I think the county staff is in the same place. They believe in our veterans, they want to honor our veterans, and they're grateful to the service that these folks have given to our country. So my thanks also to the county staff. Gentlemen, I look forward to the event tomorrow. I think it's going to be a great event, and thank you very much for being here, and we continue to honor these great people. Thanks so much.
Commissioner Waller.
No, go right ahead. That's okay.
You were so quiet.
Go right ahead. No, it's always great to do this resolution and to honor the folks from our greatest generation that participated in and lost their lives during December 7th, 1941. Thank you for continuing that tradition and allowing us to just be a small part of it. I couldn't say more than that's already been said here, so appreciate you being here and appreciate the opportunity.
And I'll echo that. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your dedication to the community and to your country. And thank you for helping us remember, because it's important for us to make sure that we always remember and reflect on the sacrifices that have been made for this country. So, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did want to highlight, unfortunately, I will not be able to attend the ceremony tomorrow, memorial and the unveiling. I have my state Board of Veterans Affairs board meeting tomorrow morning, so unfortunately I will miss that, but I will absolutely be remembering that.
Okay, anything else before we vote on this? All right, I will call the roll. Commissioner Littleton.
The Great Appreciation Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you for your service. Aye.
And Commissioner Waller.
Aye.
President votes aye. That passes unanimously. We'll stand in recess and take a photo. Thank you.